computer.
There we go.
Greetings, Earth and Space Explorers. Welcome to Doc Waller's Earth and Space Report for Friday, September 26th, 2025. I'm your host, Bill Waller, an astronomer, science educator, and communicator, coming to you on a warm and humid early autumn evening here in my hometown of Rockport, Massachusetts. These Earth and Space reports are intended to engage and inform and inspire people like you who are curious about Earth as a planet, who care about our life-sustaining biosphere, and who wonder about the greater cosmos and all that it has fostered throughout space and time. Video recordings of these reports are archived on the Earth and Space Reports YouTube channel. They are also in regular rotation on the 1623 Studios Community Access Cable Television channel. I'm grateful for the continuing interest and support shown by Rockport educators and students, Cape Ann cultural colleagues, cohorts of the Gloucester Area Astronomy Club, myriad Earth and space scientists, educators, and communicators, far-flung friends, family, and other curious folk. Thank you for your active participation and encouragements. This evening, we will be pondering our possible future on the moon, thanks to an assist from virtual reality. Our tour guide is Phillip Youngblood of the Science Circle. Phil became interested in Earth and space from an early age, becoming active in the Peninsula Astronomical Society while in high school in the Silicon Valley, and while conducting a research project for the Exobiology Division at NASA's Ames Research Center. After earning a degree in biochemistry at the University of Hawaii, Phil conducted published research in plant pathology before joining the U.S. Navy in the late 1970s. Upon retirement from the Navy in the late 1990s, Phil began his second career, starting with teaching computer science at a local college, acting as academic director for a branch campus of Texas Tech University, and then heading a computer information systems and cybersecurity degree program for 15 years. Over the last 5 years, Phil has drawn on his PhD in education with a specialization in organizational leadership by engaging in volunteer work as chair of the Computer Science Advisory Council for a local university, vice president of the Hill Country chapter of Texas Master Naturalists, and continuing his work as founding board member of the Science Circle. In his presentation this evening, Phil will help us imagine our possible future on the moon. He will do this by sharing virtual visualizations that he and his colleagues have developed. So let's get going. The Zoom platform is all yours, Phil.
Thank you very much, and welcome to the real world here, but I'm going to take you to another world you may not have been to. So let's get started. Okay. What you're seeing here, and what I'd like to know is if anybody's ever done this before, but what you're seeing here is a three-dimensional world. I'll describe it here in a minute. This is what I look like in the three-dimensional world. And it is what I would like to have is some feedback on what your impressions are. Um, Anybody's first impressions?
Well, bring him back. Where's the
It's an
gallery?
interesting effect.
Yes. So a lot of people, when they first look at this, they look at it as a game. But the fact is that the reason they look at it as a game is because uh, they share similar software. But it's really not a game because a game has gaming features. In other words, when you come in here, it's not a place where you go like, okay, what's the objective? What prizes do I get? That sort of thing. It's exactly like normal life in that you go in there and you say, what do I do now in normal life? And you have an idea of what's going on in there. Okay, so um, I don't see anybody. Let me see if there's nobody there. So I'm going to turn down the speak here, except when we have voice in here. So let me get started with the um, kind of slideshow that I've got. So I'm going to be giving you a virtual tour, talking a little bit about virtual worlds to begin with, but visualizing a future on the moon. with as much contextual introduction as I need to make sense, unless everybody's in Second Life here shortly, and then I'll give you a teleport. Okay. So the group that we're in, and what I'm saying we is that, for example, Bill Wall I've known him for quite some time in the same group. And we're called the Science Circle. We've been around for 18 years now, and you can read as well as I do, but let me hit the highlights. Is essentially we're scientists, vetted scientists and educators, but also students and enthusiasts. And we're here to share knowledge, promote open source education around the world. We've got a board with people from Singapore, Australia, China, Netherlands, US. And a few years ago, we were kind of inspired by NASA's Observe the Moon Night to explore the question, how might we live and work on the moon? So by taking advantage of the virtual world and the people that are in the science circle, which are a diverse set of both expertise and interests, then we wanted to explore this question, visualize the concepts of like what would a moon base look like, and then share what we discovered with others. So let's look at what a virtual world is first. Here again, I could go through every one of these terms, but essentially it's three-dimensional. It's not, this is a place that has, I'll show you here in a minute, but it's basically a place that is very large, has a lot of different places and things you can see and do. We've got a planetarium. We've got a full-scale version of, for example, of the Beagle, Darwin's ship. We've got, and you can go in full scale, including cannons that go off here every couple seconds, and orcas, and you name it. You can also pan over to different places. So, for example, I'm over here on Chemistry World, and in Chemistry World, there are, for example, I can go into the labs and actually show you. We can go there, or I can, just pan over there. But the idea is that in the labs themselves, there you can see they can do safety experiments. They can do all kinds of different types of things in um, there. Okay. So it's fully immersive, fully interactive, and people are customizable representations. You could look like that chair if you want to. You could be tall and different skin color and gender and whatever it is that you want to be. If you're in a wheelchair, you don't have to be in a wheelchair unless you want to. There are people that do, but you can dance, you can play a Korean instrument. I mean, any number of things that you can or can't do in there. So our experience in this world is then that it's a place to create, to explore, to share experience, form community, collaborate, other types of pursuits. And it's online, non-gaming world that's shared worldwide simultaneously a lot of times. There's tens of thousands of different places like this here with millions of people from all over the world. I've been into mosques. I've been into uh, islands that look like ancient Rome. I mean, all kinds of different places. So, given Zoom, as you know, and then Sis is going to join me. I can see right up there that he's online, so he's coming in. Is that Zoom, for example, is a lot of times talking heads of real people that a lot of times we talk, sometimes we show slides. Every once in a while we use chat and maybe show videos and stuff. But in a social virtual world, you're interacting with other people, how they want to be seen. Talk in voice. You don't have to talk in voice. There are some people that don't elect to because voice betrays who you are. You can tell from my voice, perhaps, that there's Syzygy. I'm going to speak with the speaker on. Hi, Sis. Can you say hi to people?
Hello, everyone.
Okay. Would you mind if you don't mind telling people kind of who you are or where you're at or whatever it is you want to share.
Well, let's see. We're in the Science Circle Amphitheater,
Well, I mean,
and
in real life, if you don't mind, it's up to you.
well, I'm in Vancouver right now.
Okay. Okay. And who are
I'm
you?
gonna take a seat and enjoy this thing. So,
Excellent. Okay. Can you tell them who you are in real life?
well, they already know that I'm William Wall. I'm a retired radio astronomer,
Okay.
and yeah, I worked at NASA Goddard for a while, so I know Bill Warwick from there.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. So anyway, in the social virtual world, chat is part of the reason why I have chat open here is it's often a non-competing addition to voice. So I can be talking, but people can be carrying on an entire conversation, answering questions, showing links, all kinds of stuff in chat during the same time somebody's talking. So that's an additional thing.
Mhm.
Plus, you see here naturalistic representations and do stuff. Okay, all without harm, by the way. So I've already, what can you expect from a presentation today? Is essentially I've told you a little bit about where we're at, and I've asked you, please comment, ask questions. This is not a one-way presentation, it's an immersive field experience. And so let's go now do something. And I'm going to show you several places where we're going to go. And so we're going to kind of imagine exploring Earth. I'm going to show you a couple places, exploring space, exploring the moon. So let's now go to our first place that I'd like to show you. And if you want to, William, if you want to join me here, I've got the slurl in.
I'm
Okay,
like
so
Peter Sellers in that movie. I like to watch.
okay. Now we are in the Paleocene era, or Paleocene era, excuse me, and in what will become South America. It looks a lot like South America 58,000 or 58 million years ago. Now, what I would like is for everybody to kind of give me their first impressions of what.
Who built that bridge 58 million years ago?
Well, there's
Got a lot
that.
of detail. Got a lot of detail in this.
Yes.
I mean, that
And it's,
kind of it's enhancing. It makes a good experience.
yeah. And you have a camera so you can actually zoom in on items or zoom around and see things. It's a very, there's Sis. It's an experiential thing. Let's say I can walk over the top of the alligator here. Let's see, through the water. And we're going to be going visit a large snake that existed in there called a titanoboa, which happens to be right here. Here again, you can visit it or see what it's seeing and pan around, but let's have it move a little bit.
Like a
Okay.
leaf.
Yeah. And you can ride on it as Sis maybe, well, I think it's not rideable, but some things are
Hmm.
in this area. So the idea is rather than necessarily show static pictures in a
Mhm.
virtual world, you can, a picture's worth 1,000 words. You can describe things here and actually visit and experience and talk to other people and compare and such like that. Okay, I'm going to go to the next. I'm watching my time here. I'm going to go to the next area. And here again, I will also put this in chat here so that Sis knows where we're going.
Damn Island.
Okay. Where are we here?
Underwater.
We're underwater. We're witnessing a battle between a big sperm whale and a giant squid.
Good as squid.
Yeah. We're looking at corals. Now, this is somewhat deep sea. So we've got some of the actual denizens of the deep here. The types of things like, what is this, a grouper or whatever? Anybody got know their fishies?
It's a little fishy.
Yeah. And jellyfish and et cetera, et cetera.
Are these
And
things labeled? Do they have labels? Like if I want to know what the name of that is there a call up for that stuff?
well, actually, you can click on it, and in this case, it says Inochi Reef Acropora tenuia, whatever that is.
That's the
But in other
important part.
words, yeah,
That's the important part of the whole exhibit. It's like walking through a timescape or a museum, and you want to know what am I looking at?
Mm-hmm.
well, and exactly. And how long can you hold your breath? Well, in here, since you're virtual, you can hold your breath. There's a manta. Oh, no. Hi there, porpoise. And then you can tell what kind of porpoise. And usually, Delia Lake, who's actually Linda Morris Kelly, she's an ecologist, built this. And she's very good about it being realistic. And I think I have gone the wrong way. Hang on a second.
Oh,
Just a second.
getting lost in a virtual world.
Yeah. I'm trying to go to the there. I can see the fumaroles ahead. Now you can also animate these so that you can see, like for example, polyps and coral working and such like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in other words, and perhaps fish getting stuck and all that. Now, nobody has been down here except for
Tube
deep
worms.
sea craft. But you got the big tube worms, and you've got, which, by the way, these are made around the right size, and the fumaroles, the
Mm.
black sluggers, all that
Wow.
good stuff like that. So you have a feeling for being able to immerse and not just to just describe or show pictures, but to actually move around and see relationships and sizes and such like that of a different world. You've even got a little angler fish or something right in here.
I didn't
Yeah.
realize the tube worms were so big.
They're shy. I mean, oh, the tube worms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy's a little shy right here, there, but you can see some of the.
Oh yeah, I remember them. Went
Wow.
to the
Okay.
dentist.
Okay. Something just. Yeah. There we go. Okay. And then now we're going to go to some place that you guys will like.
I like it here.
Oh, you like it here? Okay. We're going to go to the International Spaceflight Museum. It's been around for quite some time. In fact, they're celebrating their 20th year, if this thing will res in a little bit. There we go, 20th year of the International Spaceflight Museum. And in the International Spaceflight Museum, you can find all kinds of different exhibits and rides and demonstrations and uh, life-size things. For example, this was built by, this is uh, a rideable Artemis craft built by one of our members. Um, and okay, the other thing you could do is fly. Okay.
Well, that's handy.
In addition to teleporting, well, because if it's large, you kind of need to fly. Okay, so what you see here, watch what happens when I um, pan out a little bit, is um, these are all of the rockets, real size. There's India, and so the Indian rockets are all together. You've got ones from China and Japan, and you've got the older ones, historic versions. You've got, for example, the space shuttle. Now, to give you an idea, these are all real size. They're all at least, so in other words, when you go over to the space shuttle, this is a large area. It's about 65,000 square meters. So now you're looking at a real size space shuttle here, the Atlantis. And so you can go in some of these and look around and see how they might have looked there's an old N1 that the Soviets would have used to go to the moon, except for the fact, does anyone know why they didn't make it to the moon?
They kept blowing up.
Yes, and because we didn't have good computers back then. If you look at Elon Musk's Starship, for example, this one has about 31 or 34 engines down here, but whereas the Saturn V only had 5 really large ones.
Mm-hmm.
But SpaceX, which is also here, has the same number, but they're all computer controlled. That we didn't have that advantage back in the 60s, obviously.
It's the big one.
There's Blue Origin. In other words, you can go around and see all these. There's also, like I said, on other areas, there's a tremendous amount of things that are here. Early space flight stuff and gantries and a simulation of Mars over here, including and space planes and how they landed and demonstrations and stuff. It's a very large and very interesting place to be. Let me take you to the next place I'd like to show you.
Before we go,
I'm sorry?
go ahead.
I have a question, Phil.
Yes,
I'm
please.
curious, what are you using or how are you generating these 3D environments? Are you modeling them yourself or using a program to model them?
Okay, that's a good question. What they are is each one of them, you can actually take a look at them and how they built them. Each one of them is what's called a primitive, a prim or primitive. It's kind of like if you do 3D modeling with, darn, the name escapes me now.
Wireframe.
Yeah, like wireframe, except
Yeah.
that these, you notice this is not triangles. So for
Right.
example, you don't have that many. This only is 37 pieces for something like this. Whereas if you built some of the wireframes and stuff, some of the things over in here, it gets a little more complex.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, what you're looking at is textures. So that even something like this is, let me see if I can. This is also 37. It's a concert stage, but it looks as if it's richer in structure because a lot of it is textures over the top of just a single piece. So almost everything in here is created as textures. Now, sometimes people will create extremely realistic looking things, but they're using mesh and they're using more
Sure.
advanced methods than what we see here.
That's very cool. And it's generated within this program, or is it generated in a different program and brought in?
This is, well, okay, if you're going to use like Blender or other types of mesh programs, you can bring them in, but
Okay.
you can import them. But this is all in-house, more or less.
Cool.
In other words, you can build it all here.
Super
And you
cool.
can learn. There are places you can go, like this one called the Builder's Brewery and stuff that actually teach you how to build. And there's a scripting language called Linden Scripting Language, because this is Linden Lab in San Francisco that's the host of this. And there's Sis. And Sis, I'm going to, let's see.
You've created the matrix.
Well, essentially, now what do you think? Where are we here?
The space
We're
station.
about 200 miles up.
Yeah, this is the International Space Station full scale. And you can see, for example, let's see, there's an astronaut doing kind of a whatever with the Hubble over here. And you've got other a space shuttle that is docked here. Now, a lot of these, by the way, these models, whoops, where'd I go? A lot of these models are kind of detailed. Some of them can be as detailed. I'll show you one that's really detailed. But for example, on this one, if I go into the space shuttle, it takes a little bit of playing with the camera sometime, and it's not going to allow me to do it because there's stuff in the way. Just a second. I just ran into the astronaut. Sorry about that.
Can you
Okay.
virtually float around the solar system?
Yeah. Is that you can actually see in here and notice that they've got this set up as if it's fairly real, you know? In other words, inside here, they've made it as realistic as possible
Don't touch
inside
my-
the space shuttle there. So you can depict
Wow.
stuff like that, which is pretty cool, I think.
Very.
Okay, just a second. I'm gonna. You don't need to hear me cough. Okay, maybe I need to get a drink of water. Okay, so
Hmm.
any questions so far? I've got some good questions.
Can you operate the Canadian arm?
If you were to program it, yes. Now, in this case, I don't think it's operable, but the Canadian arms here, and there'll be a version. This is number 2 or version 2. There is a version 3 that will be on the Gateway space station that's going to be in lunar orbit. They're building some of the modules right now, the power portion and the crew station and stuff. And what they will have is they will have kind of an AI controlled arm, and not everybody, it won't be manned or excuse me crewed all the time like the International Space Station. It will actually have some robotic controls, be able to do stuff like repairs and stuff with the arm and building when people are not there. In other words, it'll be able to be programmed. That's a vision
Wow.
of that lunar station. Okay, let me go to our next site here. And if Bill gets lost, he will ask me for a teleport. Okay. So now we are back at, and there he is. Okay. Because I think he knows that we're going to go there because I gave everybody an email about where we're going. Okay. So, hey, Sis, we're going to go to the, yeah, coming back. We're going to go to the immersive experience over here. So I'm going to click on it first, and then you can go after me. And it should focus here.
Welcome to the Science Circle Immersive Experience. Click on the moon globe to begin.
Oh, but yeah, I showed you. Did I show you the video?
No.
Okay. Well, the idea here is that I think, well, we don't want to see the video, but the idea here is that you can animate things. You've got a large space. It's about 13 acres. If you look at from American standpoint, each of these different areas here. Oh yeah, I did. I showed you what that we had a video down here of a presentation that we did back a ways. Okay. But what I'm going to show you now is I'm going to show you a display we did for the Virtual World's Best Practice Education Conference that was in the spring. And this is closer to, with all that introduction, this is closer to what I promised, which was a virtual tour of the moon. But we had to have a lot of preamble. So we're right now in, what are we looking at right now? In other words, I don't necessarily want to tell you. What are we looking at? A bunch of posters, right? There's Sizzy, follow me there. Okay, notice the numbers there.
Kind
So
of
what
an patio.
what does this look like?
Oh, my backyard.
Yeah, backyard or front yard, depending on where it is with the screen and stuff. So what we're looking at is a house. Now, the reason I built this was because it's about a 200 square meter home, and it's with the porch. We're actually at the front door, and it's a normal, bedroom, closet, etc., so that you could say, okay, this is the baseline for comparison. Now this is a home in the United States, which is about twice as big as the ones in Europe, fireplace, all that, but it's got all the types of things that we would have to have on a moon base or have to decide if we have on a moon base. For example, can we have real books on a moon base? Do you think?
No.
Okay. Can you think of a way for it to look like real books, but not have them because they're too heavy, for example?
Mural?
Okay. Well, what if it actually looked like this and you had titles, but when you clicked on it, essentially it would then, Bluetooth, whatever, you'd have a ebook or something that looked like a physical book in your hand,
Mhm.
and it would then fill in the pages, and you'd be able to read like a physical book. But you'd have everybody has their own little personal physical book. That way, you
So
could
a whole
actually,
lot of Kindles.
yeah, a whole lot of Kindles. Only sometimes, sometimes reading it, you can't actually smell the leather, so to speak.
Hmm.
But sometimes the physical, if you're so far away from Earth, sometimes the idea of something that's more comforting, like a book, makes a psychological difference. So that's kind of what we're thinking about. How do you make a home and do all the type? Yeah, there you go. Sis says able to simulate an olfactory experience. Absolutely. We could. I'm a biochemist. Esters are pretty easy. If you wanted me to make, say, pineapple or pine or something, those are very simple chemicals that could be made uh, easily by just mixing a couple chemicals together. And so in then I kind of expand what's inside the home and say, okay, how are we going to say take care of garbage? How are we going to get water or electricity or control humidity or electrical controls or clean or do entertainment or human waste? Um, Now, do you know what they do happen to do on the International Space Station for human waste?
Vacuum.
For the actual process, yes. But what do they do with it?
They're recycling their liquids. I don't know what they're doing with their solids. Compact.
Okay, yeah, very good. The liquids, they have a machine that takes care of both air and liquids and such, and carbon dioxide and humidity and all of that. Uh, but for the solids, they basically put them in a supply spacecraft, and have it burn up in the atmosphere. Now, the Apollo, what did they do with theirs?
Chucked it.
Left it on the moon. There's like
Oh.
90 bags of human poop on the moon. That one day will be in a museum on the moon, I suppose. So, in on a moon base, though, human waste, for example, we haven't shied away from talking about important topics. Lovely, yeah, as Sis says here. We haven't shied away from talking about topics because we need to know how we're going to do things on the moon. And it made the toilet itself may look like it does on the International Space Station, etc. Make sure that, but human waste is full of chemicals and organics and complex things, and even live bacteria and or viruses that can. It's a resource for
Host.
yeah, for all kinds of stuff. So how do you sleep? How do you take care of circadian rhythms? Do you have a personal space? Do you have social spaces? How do you cook and um, freeze things and control water and control all of that sort of stuff like that? So we do. Okay, so now I've got to watch my timing. I have a little timer here for what I want to do next. Um,
Welcome. Please click the box to accept this HUD as our gift to you. It will share information to you in voice and IM while you go through this experience.
was anyone able to hear that?
Meh.
Okay,
It's
a little bit.
it's
It's
written.
on a much lower level.
Yeah, it's as loud as I can get it. I'd have to kind of go probably real near him to do it again. Um, but the idea is he basically said there's a HUD and it's in different languages. You can put it in, whatever languages and stuff. But I'm going to click on the HUD and I'm going to keep the HUD, and then I'm going to go in and uh, where let's see. Hang on a second. I probably didn't keep. Okay. Just a second. There. Okay. Yeah, something. Okay, now what language? Anybody speak something other than English?
A little French.
Okay, I don't have French on this, but I do have English, Spanish, Dutch, and Japanese. So let's just pick Japanese for a second. And so in other words, you can do any language that like Google Translate or whatever. The other thing I wanted to try to remind people was that um, and I'm watching my timing here, was that this box right here is the size of a prison cell in Germany. Ones in the US are half that size. The other thing is I'm like, for example, retired Navy officer. And if you've ever lived on a ship, um, you'll know that living quarters can be rather tight. So this house, of course, is luxurious for lots of places around the world.
宇宙服はどこだ？ここにいちゃダメだ。気絶する前に急いで。
Okay. So in other words, in Second Life, you can I'll bring it back to English so you can see what they said. But essentially in you'll notice that it also has it in the language and other things. So let me go ahead and go back here and I'll show you what they said this moment. I got to get out of the whoops, that's the sun, 250 degrees. Okay, let me go back.
Where's your spacesuit? You can't stay here. Hurry up before you pass out.
Okay, it's like the cartoon here where it says, "Now one more time without the helmet." Okay, for a
Very
picture.
good.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Second Life is big enough that you can make full-scale models of things. This is a 1 to 5 million scale of the Earth-Moon system. That's the inner and outer Van Allen radiation belts. When you look at, I'm trying not to make you seasick here. Okay, when you look at each of these, posters, you can click on stuff to go to websites. You can see in relationship to the Earth how where the low Earth orbits, where say International Space Station, medium Earth orbits, Geospace Station, and since of course you can fly, we'll do that. Yeah, and then you can simulate different places. So, for example, with the Gateway Space Station, we'll take a quick little tour around, just a quick mock-up of it, like we're in a museum. This is the size of the Artemis thing, by the way, that's under construction. Shows you where we are in the spacecraft itself. We're in the airlock module here, and this is about the size of what it would look like inside. This is International Space Station here. In other words, you could show things, do things, interact, show how people do things. There's the actual system toilet in the International Space Station, how people sleep and stuff. So you can make these as interactive and interesting as you want. This is the size of the space station that they're going to have around the moon. And then I'm going to just drop down here for a minute. Okay. And then you can do stuff like this, a quiz. Okay, so when you've read all those posters and stuff, let's take a quiz. You'll probably know this answer. How does ozone in the atmosphere protect life on Earth? A, B, C, or D? Everybody read that?
Mm-hmm.
Which one would you pick? How does ozone protect the atmosphere or protect
B.
life? Which one?
I thought B.
B. Okay, click. Da, 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 da. You're correct. Okay, ozone absorbs under UV, particularly UVB and other things from the sun. Okay, so the idea is that for people that are visiting, that's kind of doing this sort of thing, you can then see. Now, this is a one of our moon-based simulations. It's got it's basically a greenhouse. So you've got printed food here, and other types of stuff. Hydroponic station here, scientists working on things. You can get information from people through note cards, for example. The note card then will give you information, so you can give you, and which also can have links and pictures and the whole bit like that about for each of the things that, places and stuff. Um, we're going to just go down here for a moment. Let me call the elevator just a moment.
What, no transporters?
Well, you can. That's pretty easy. I've already showed you how to do that. But you have an elevator. Now, this particular thing is in full scale, but it looks a lot like an office building. In other words, it's got a separate living area. It's got 8 floors here. We happen to be on deck 7 there, and then this was where the elevator and the entry system here. And I just wanted to show you, and I think Sis is right behind me. Hi, Sis. Okay. Oh, Sis, anytime you want to chime in, please chime in. I'm just giving them a tour of all this. And watching my time since we only have an hour.
Great by yourself, Phil.
Okay, just checking. But if you have something else, you've had a lot of experience, same as I in here. Now, this would be to the other parts of the station, that direction, but let's go down here. So the South Pole, the reason why, does anyone know why it has water ice?
Shaded by crater rims.
Absolutely. In other words, permanently shadowed area that haven't seen the sunlight for billions of years. So they're very, very cold. And so ice is like solid rock. So this is just a simulation of a permanent crater. However, I'm going to open it up here. And so if you're inside this crater mining.
Oh, you startled me. It gets lonely here. I'm a water miner. I mine water that is used on the moon base. The water also provides oxygen for breathing and hydrogen for fuel.
So you can get a feel for what it is that we're doing here, trying to do here, is both to do educational and then also experiential types of educational builds, like you have on a museum. This is a lava tube here, or a simulated lava tube. The next building we have, I don't have time to go see the whole thing. I want you to show a little bit of some of these things. But basically, the second model that we built was much more detailed. You can see all the different types of things. Now, what we did was we looked at NASA and European Space Agency, and they had contests. And so, for example, you would see how people thought of a moon base, and then we did our own design. So we would have to have, for example, dining, food prep, showers, dressing, manufacturers, power plant, air plant, entries for different reasons, greenhouse quarters. And then some people said, why don't we have a track? Okay, so we have a track, keep physically fit around there. However, you might have to have something, moon boots or whatever. We haven't worked quite that out sometime because it doesn't have 1G, it's 1/6 G. We even have a simulation for 1/6 G, by the way. There's another which can show you how to do that. It's toward the end. So here I'm going to go get by the way, has anyone ever seen a nuclear reactor?
Not
Okay. So anyway, if you look inside a nuclear reactor, you've got the Chernikov effect there with the blue and stuff. So, or Chernikov. Cherenkov. Thank you. Cherenkov. Okay, I know it's one of them.
I call it the blue glow.
And I just missed the elevator. Hang on a second. Okay, and there's Sis. Whoops, sorry, Sis. And then I got to go. Uh-oh, now it's stuck. Okay, tell you what, we're going to go to the next spot because you want to be able to see the rest, and we've got about 10 minutes. But let me pan out. I'll tell you what, let me show you what we're looking at here. We've got a full scale. I'm down there messing around. And we've got a full scale version 2 of our moon base here that has, for example, a medical bot and a dining rooms and all kinds of stuff like that. And where am I? So I'm probably going to have to go on this hang on a second to get out of here just a moment. For just a moment, I'll show you. Okay, and I think Sis just called on this. It shows a little bit about where we're at and stuff. And I think we have battling. Yeah, we do. Battling elevators. So I'll tell you what, like I said, there's the medical bot there. And then we've got several versions here. We've got a third version here, which we're playing with. And then we've also got a full scale starship here. And then lots of different types of educational areas that talk about things like human factors, entertainment. Humans aren't robots. So what do they do? Things, clothing, and how do we envision doing clothing as recyclable clothing. In other words, basically you put it on. In other words, on the space station, they don't wash anything because of water. So they actually take off their clothes and then put on new ones. And then the other, just like the human waste, it's put on a spaceship and burned. Okay, when it gets back in the atmosphere. You can't do that on the moon. So we were thinking of recycled material, that sort of thing. We've also got an illustrator from Japan who envisions some of these spaces as kind of retro pastel colors,
Hmm.
which is kind of cool. So, like a library instead of a library bookcase thing for social spaces and stuff like that. So it's pretty interesting. We've covered a lot of different territories. Okay, so I'm going to take you to this next spot here. Let's see. Yeah, Cherenkov. There you go. Says, got me right. Okay, so we're looking at the fourth version of our there we go. And there's his. Okay, so what we did is one of our members is a retired surgeon, and we said design a medical, um, like with emergency rooms and stuff, design a medical bay essentially for the moon base. And he thought of things like hypobarics because of pressure differences and radiology and recovery, intensive care, all that stuff like that. So we kind of looked at this and said, okay, in order for people to get around, they're going to need maps and arrows and color codes and stuff to make it easier to get around. So we're going to be going into the medical bay here. So red here is for emergencies, and yellow is for critical care, and then routine care. And there's our hypo spray, more or less. You can see where we're at here. And then recovery rooms here. And we've got, this is all based on his little diagram. We've got intensive care in there. And we've got this is where the operating room, you've got scrub room behind here. This would all be sterilized in the operating room. Now, we're still, this is still in construction, so it's not fully realize. Whoops, you heard me. Because I didn't turn down one of those. Sorry about that. Okay. And reception and treatment and pharmacy. And for example, you've got places for people to stay overnight if they're on call, and you've got a washroom and such like that. And then radiology and other rooms like this. In this. And so this was our vision of a medical area. Now, let me show you the other area that we're building for the UN sponsored World Space Week.
Hmm.
Okay. One of the purposes, one of the good things, as Sis will tell you, is that instead of just someone building this, we come in here and we look at it. We go, this is too big. You need kind of arrows here. You need to simplify this or be able to click on something for more detail. All of those sorts of things. So it's a collaborative venture instead of just being um, something that one person envisions. So what we were looking at was the first thing we did was we're looking at, well, how are we going to treat this as an actual scientific, um, how are we going to treat this as an actual scientific research? So as a guiding question, which would be what you use for qualitative research, is what might it be like to live and work on the moon? Now, if
Mhm.
you're going to actually answer that as a research question, then of course you have to change that to something that is quantifiable or actually answerable. So, for example, how might be living and working on the moon be like or different from home on Earth if it's used as a um, baseline? So, proposed is essentially we're going to scientifically compare how we live and work in different habitats using the Earth as a baseline and looking at features and conditions. In other words, how are some areas that we know that are more familiar than the moon, like, for example, Antarctic Research Station or a
Mhm.
submarine or a hospital, how are those more like the moon than home on Earth? Or are they more like, in other words, how are they? And then we compare them to basically a base at lunar South Pole and then the Earth. And so in each of these cases, we've got 16 different habitats, each of them, and then we look at human needs. So we've got NASA's human rated standards. There's the um, website there. If we have time, I'll go to that, except I only have a few minutes. We've got other Maslow's both high and low basic needs, physical conditions we're looking at, basically in reality, time, mobility, gravity, atmosphere pressure, and then also we want to explain why do you need to breathe? In other words, what does a cell do? Um, you know, in other words, everybody can say, yeah, we need air and water and food, but like why? Okay. In other words, in reality, what is happening? Nutrient absorption, the roles of water, oxygen transport, so that everybody kind of gets an idea of why we need what we need. And then we're looking at each of 16 different habitats based from Apollo through the Starship to International Space Station, the lunar gateway, the anneal cylinder, Mars habitats, lunar habitats, simulators. This is one in Germany. This is one in Texas, A&M putting together the biosphere, hospital room, COVID isolation, and then you've seen the house, and then Antarctic research station, um, reef station off of Florida, and submarines, that sort of thing. Now, let me show you something real quick. Um, do I have a grace period, like 5 minutes or
Oh,
not?
yeah.
Okay. So I've already showed you that in Second Life you can build very complicated things. This is a full-scale DC-3. The problem with the full-scale DC-3 is that it's built to Earth standards and not to Second Life standards. In Second Life, you have to either multiply, you see my head sticking out. So you have to multiply everything by about 1.5 or 2, which there are measures to do. But CIS is over by what we're looking at for example, submarine. So in the submarine, we want to give them an idea of how do you sleep and eat and do things on a sub. So for example, this is kind of like when you've got time off. Has anyone been on a sub or in the military?
No, just visited,
Okay.
tourist sub.
Well, this is a modern day attack sub. And you can see this is a cute one I got that's a French sub, and they've got all kinds of different things they're doing and stuff. It's very interesting showing what's aboard a sub. So we wanted to show, okay, this is the dining room. This is the captain's quarters. This is enlisted uh, berthing spaces, etc. And then we've got full-scale diagrams of all this in a sub, and you can see that it has 4 levels. You've got batteries, you've got berthing and other things. You've got various spaces above it, etc. And then, so in order to get a feel for it, you see where Sis is over there, William?
Mm-hmm.
Bill Wall?
Yes.
Okay. In order to get a feel for this, you've got to put it in our perspective. So this is a full scale model for Second Life of the diagram I just showed you. Now, we're not done with it, but basically this is how it would feel. That's how the ceiling would feel, a little low. It's between 6 and 6.5 feet. This is actually 6.5 feet, or the equivalent of. We wanted to show how close the bunks are. You basically have to slide into them. They're really only about 1.5 feet apart. So and put an animation for being in one of the enlisted bunks, that sort of thing. So that's kind of what we're doing to get a feel for the different habitats and how to compare them and stuff like that. And so I'm at 2 minutes after the hour. There's a lot more I could show you, but does anyone have any comments, questions? Sis, you want to add anything that I might not have said in an hour?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one little thing. I'm just going to say that we're still working on this display here.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think it would also be good to show like a lunar base diagram. So there may be other things we're going to do here as well.
Yeah, and I showed him a little bit of the lunar base stuff we've done so far, but you're right.
Yeah.
Every one of these has and that here again, that's a full scale version of the Starship over there, and we've got a very large actual moon landscape here. That's 250 meters across right there, but then it continues on into the distance, etc. So you can build some pretty good sized stuff, realistic like stuff. Like I said, that's a DC-3 there, that sort of thing. Anything else that you can think of? Any other questions before I conclude?
It's a great three-dimensional virtual reality world. It's like Smithsonian of the universe.
I was hoping you'd get that comparison, because you can make it into a interactive virtual space with a few extras like flying and teleporting.
Well, and it's educational to the point where you can identify everything.
Yes, if you do it right, if you make it so people can understand it. Absolutely, I agree with you. We find it a marvelous place to meet and to build on your imaginations and such like that, and to visualize.
Have you got virtual factories?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you an example of how it's educational in that we have a chemistry professor who will show us models of molecules, large molecules, reacting with each other, and you can do these 3D displays in real time, like very kinetic structures that you can show off and to teach your class and teach the audience.
Actually, that was the part that I panned over to with the camera, but it's actually a full-scale chemistry lab. I mean, with everything in there, Bunsen burners and safety and hoods and the whole bit, for teaching safety and procedures where they wouldn't cost or be dangerous in chemistry lab. It's a great place to an excellent demonstration of Second Life.
It's like a virtual makerspace.
Yeah. Any other? I notice it's 5 after. Any other questions, comments, etc.? Thank you, Sis, for joining us in World.
Did a great job, Phil. Thanks.
I have
Thank
a
you.
question, Phil.
Yes, please.
Have you had any experience engaging kids? I know that, a lot of middle and high school students play in virtual worlds as a matter of course. And I'm just wondering whether you've had any interaction with this cohort.
Okay, Sis, have you ever, I have my answer. Sis, have you ever worked with underage Second Life?
In Second Life, no, I've only given talks to people that I thought were adult avatars anyway. So no,
Okay.
I have no interactions with children.
Okay, I have. I've actually had a avatar as another avatar. There was an area called the Teen Grid because they figured that the lowest age should be about 12 because there's a lot of things that people build. Now, the Second Life part, there's no restriction, but they do have GRX type of spaces, and they don't restrict them if you're in the regular part of Second Life. But if a class wanted to come in here, you can restrict their movements. In other words, just so that they cannot teleport to a X-rated space, for example, that sort of thing. So yes, you can. And I know that there are schools in here and there are places where students go, just like the chemistry lab, that sort of thing. That could be a high school chemistry lab,
Mhm.
where they are more protected. But on the other hand, you can build anything you want in here. Does that
Is there,
answer your question a bit?
yeah, I think so. So the level of engagement by middle and high school students as entertainment.
Well,
Well,
entertainment also, yeah. I mean, there's discos, there's mountain climbing and skiing, and there's sailboat racing, and anything you can think of, airplane dog fights, and whatever it is you want to do in here, you can do. It's
could
just
a
you,
te could a teacher in a school use this as part of a curriculum if they knew a certain area they wanted to explore as a
um,
conducted tour?
absolutely. There's a whole group that's called the Virtual Education Consortium. We happen to be a part of it. If we had time or another month, I would show you some of these places. There's just to show you, for example, and I know I'm watching the time here because I think I'm going over, but I promise I'll be done here in a minute or two. Is that this is where we are. We happen to be on one space. This is Caltech over here, Scientia. This is another university where they have graduate genomics um, areas. There's tens of thousands of sites here. NASA, let me see if I can show you. Okay, that's Rockcliffe. Where is hang on a second, NASA? Um, National Health Service in the UK. Um, let's see, there's another university. There we go. Okay, so here's Spaceport Bravo, which is next door. They have a full scale Saturn V and all that. Here's this. And then also below it, you've got Explorer Island, but then let's see, where's the other part? Over here, you've got National Space Society, NASA e-education. There's literally tens of thousands of these and hundreds of educational sites and universities and places you can go. It's it take you a
How do
long
you get
time.
access? How do
Yeah.
you get access to all that?
Was that a question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, how do you get access to that whole world?
It's very easy if you go to secondlife.com. But if you want, I can give you, instead of having to reinvent the wheel and learn, I mean, if you like to learn it all, uh, that's great. But if you want to kind of like skip a little bit, um, let's see, secondlife.com is what it's called. And so if I go to here, let's see if you can see it on top of.
Bill, you'll have this when you send out the recording.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I can show you some of the stuff and the links and stuff. So if you're really
And
interested, then get with me again, and I'll be glad to show you around. Bill will be glad to show you, I'm sure,
Looks like
and
a
other
great
people.
place to learn.
I think so.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, I can say that there are basically two steps. One is what Phil was showing, the website. So you can start, you get your account, you open your account, create your avatar name, and so on. Then
it's
you get
free.
what's called a viewer, And the viewer you can get from Linden Labs itself, if you want, which are the owners of Science Circle, or you can get something else like Firestorm. There are a whole bunch of other types of viewers you can get. Once you have your account, then you start the viewer, and then you go from there.
And
Nice.
it's free, and you create your own avatar and look, and you can buy things if you want or not, or it's up to you. The economy is actually hundreds of millions, believe it or not, in here.
Wow.
All right. I think we're going to have to close this gathering.
Thank you
But
very much.
I might be dreaming tonight in virtual space. So
It was wonderful.
I want to thank you all
Thank
for
you.
coming. This was a very unique and engrossing experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bill, there's a comment in chat. I don't know if you saw that or not.
It was in Zoom chat, probably not. I didn't. I'm able to juggle 3 balls, but not 4.
Yeah, from Tom Micus. Do you encounter other members whom you did not invite to join you?
We encounter lots of people. Most of them are very civil. Some of them we have to eject if they are like, griefers, like on social media.
Oh, that's
We can
good.
literally eject them. We can just go boink and they're out of the space.
Got to
But most
transfer.
people are very civil.
Wow.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks all to you, or thanks to you all. There you go.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Yep.
Okay.
Take
Take
care.
care.
Take
As
care.
always,
again.
Bill.
Bye.
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 Very cool. Thank you.
Okay. Take care.